there are lots of innovations within sports that could help teams out. For baseball, it's the designated hitter in 1973. Now pitchers didn't have to hit. Pitchers could just focus, like Nolan Ryan when he played for the Angels, could just focus on throwing the ball and trying to strike out guys. And the DH would bring another batter up the bench. Imagine if you had like two great center fielders or two great third basemen on your squad, and then you can't put them in both in the lineup every day. You can put them in as a DH. In basketball, in football, it was like instant replay, and also the defensive rules in 1978. In Before 1978, it was a bit you didn't see too many passing yards and catches and all that. It was mostly a running game, mostly because defenders could hit receivers at a certain point and not get penalized. But the NFL changed that rule, saying that you had a 5-year buffer zone. Anything over that, you were penalized for pass interference and all that crap. And the passing game opened up. Dan Marino would not have thrown for over 5,000 yards in 1984 with that. And in hockey, you had lots of innovations, including the elimination of the two-line pass in 2005 when they finally played hockey after the year-long strike. They took out the red line, not literally, but figuratively, because you could pass from your end of the ice and then find somebody across the way. You got to make sure you were onside. But what I'm talking about is basketball. There's been some innovations, including the three-point shot. In 1979, it was introduced, giving teams within 23 feet a chance to score an extra point. What would have been if the three-point line was around in the 1960s, like in the ABA? I mean, Jerry West, he even game 4 of the 1970 NBA Finals would have been a three-pointer to win the game and not go to overtime. But what if I told you one team did not do well from the three-point line and it cost them a trip to the 2018 NBA Finals? Let's talk about the 2018 Houston Rockets. We're playing basketball sims. We're playing basketball sims. He's playing what if NBA. Cutter's doing what if NBA. Yeah. Oh, all the teams around the world got to know that the Raptors are number 1. But what about the Bulls, Wizards, and Pistons? They all have great what ifs. Stories about old teams like the Kansas City Kings and maybe even the Minneapolis Lakers. But we all know we're going to do some basketball. He's doing basketball. He's doing basketball. What if? Cutter's doing what if NBA? So what if NBA? So the Houston Rockets franchise actually started out life in San Diego. Bet you didn't know that. I keep forgetting about that. But yeah, in 1968, the NBA decided to expand to a few cities, and San Diego got a team. It was amazing. Like San Diego had some fantastic moments and all that in basketball and all that. Heck, they were close to getting a baseball team. That team would start in 1969 as the Padres. I mean, football, they were the Chargers in San Diego before they went from AFL to NFL. So San Diego thought, maybe we need basketball. And they had Elvin Hayes who would help them out. Unfortunately, though, San Diego got into financial trouble and would move. Houston said, hey, we have a nice stadium. We have some big moves. Heck, I mean, Elvin Hayes will be moving back home if we get him. So the Rockets would go to Houston. It actually worked better. The nickname worked better in Houston than San Diego because, they actually did some space rocket stuff from Texas. So anyway, it worked out. And Elvin Hayes, who played for the University of Houston back in the late 60s, got to play for Houston in the NBA. So the Houston teams were decent and all that. They just didn't do too well getting people to notice. But then in the 80s, things happened. Although people cry foul, saying that they were through chicanery and all that stuff. Through chicanery, they actually ended up with the number 1 picks both in 83 and 84. 83 was Ralph Sampson, the big 7-foot center from Virginia who was dominating in college but just couldn't win the big one, the NCAA title, just like Bill Walton did. So he went there, and then a year later, lo and behold, Houston won a coin flip and got the number one pick. And that pick ended up being Hakeem Olajuwon, or Akeem, before he changed it to Hakeem because of his Islam conversion in 1991. So anyhow, um, yeah, he was from the University of Houston, and he also failed to win a championship. The University of Houston had a chance to win the 2025 NCAA title, but failed. Nevertheless, the Rockets had these twin towers, if you will, and they were helping out. Within a few years, Houston was chasing for a title. In 1986, they shocked the LA Lakers, the defending champion LA Lakers, in the conference finals thanks to Ralph Sampson's volleyball shot in Game 5. Houston went on to the championship just like 1981, but they got humiliated by the Boston Celtics both times. Houston would spend some time in the wilderness and then come back with Clyde the Guy Drexler coming into the team. Well, that was the 95 team. The 94 team was pretty decent. They actually started out 15-0. The class of the NBA, well, of course, with MJ playing baseball, they looked good. Houston would take on New York, two behemoths going battle, Olajuwon versus Ewing, who were great rivals in college. So, so basically, yeah, Olajuwon and Ewing would go toe to toe. It was a tough one. In Game 6, the Knicks had a 3-point chance to win the game, but John Starks just missed the three-pointer, and it was tipped away by Hakeem Olajuwon. Of course, I'm talking about the three-point misses. And speaking of three-point misses, John Starks had a shitty day from three-point line in Game 7. He was ice cold, just like the Houston team in 2018, like I'm going to talk about. Houston lucked out later on. Well, they won back-to-back titles. In 95, they were supposed to falter to Orlando, but Nick Anderson just couldn't make a free throw to save his life. And Kenny the Jet Smith, yes, that one, hit a three-pointer to tie the game 1, and then they went in overtime. Houston would sweep Orlando. They had Drexler. They looked good. And then they decided, for some dumb reason, to change the look from their red and gold Rocket stuff to pinstripes with three-dimensional numbers. Really? Nevertheless, Houston tried their best. In 97, they looked good to get to the NBA Finals, but they lost to John Stockton's three-pointer in Game 6. So anyway, Houston would actually pick up Yao Ming as the number one pick, and he was dominant when he was healthy. They even had Tracy McGrady at one time, who once put up 13 points in 38 seconds on a Thursday night TNT game with Marv Albert on the call. So anyway, Houston looked pretty decent. Love them. Love the Houston Rockets. So anyway, Houston tries, they might, they've had some key chances to make the finals and all that, but unfortunately have failed. They failed to the Golden State Warriors just this past year in 2025, even though they were the 2 seed. So anyway, let's talk about the 2018 Rockets and what led to their 3-point boondoggle. So we have the 2017-18 Houston Rockets. This was the 51st season of the franchise and 47th in the Houston area. As I said, they spent 4 years in San Diego. The Rockets actually made massive trades during the 2017 NBA draft that actually got them CP3 from the Clippers, which was huge. They ended up winning 65 games, which was a franchise record, even more so than the two champion teams. And they were the 1 seed for the first time ever. And they had Isaiah Hartenstein, who was the pride of New York because of the Jewish heritage. The 2018 Rockets had Ryan Anderson, Trevor Ariza, Tarek Black, Clint Capella, Eric Gordon, Gerald Green, who was this high schooler, one of the last high schoolers taken in the draft before they finally said you have to spend a year in college. Eric Gordon, James Harden, R.J. Hunter, the Georgia State hero from a few years prior, was on a two-way contract. Joe Johnson from Arkansas, sweet. Aaron Jackson, Luke Mabamute, Nene, weird names. Jenna Oroku, CP3, PJ Tucker. I thought he was from Wisconsin, PJ Tucker, but it's not. And Shu Key. Houston crushed New Orleans in the division, winning 65 games. It was 90 pounds. Golden State won 58 for second place. Portland nipped Oklahoma City, Utah, and New Orleans for third. Three-way tiebreak. Oklahoma City got the 4 seed, Utah 5, meaning that Utah played Oklahoma, and New Orleans would play Portland. San Antonio would be the 7 seed, and a tiebreak with Minnesota to play Golden State, and Minnesota would play Houston, with Denver winning 46 games and just missing the playoffs. And yeah, they did the regular season. First round against the Timberwolves, they looked pretty dominant. They did have one little blip. In the conference semis against Utah, they lost game 2, but no big deal. And then game 4, sorry. And then the conference finals against Golden State, the 3-time defending conference champions and defending champions. They were up 3-2 on those guys. It looked decent. They went to Golden State, lost, but then they had home of court. It was like, well, we're going to win for sure. Well, somehow James Harden scored 32 points. And all that. Okay, Tucker. Yeah, it was Harden, Ariza, Tucker, Capella, and Chris Paul being the main guys, if you will. Transactions, they had a lot of things. Houston traded the draft right to Dylan Brooks, pick number 45. So practically, you know, yeah, the night of the draft, right? Yeah, the 2017 NBA draft. They traded Dylan Brooks' rights, the Canadian from the University of Oregon, to Memphis. Would have been nice for Houston to have Dylan Brooks. And then they made some massive trades June 28th. And all that. But the main trade was getting Chris Paul from the Clippers. It cost them Sam Decker, Patrick Beverly, Lou Williams, DeAndre Liggins, Darren Hilliard, Kyle Wilcher, Monso Harrell, and a first-round pick. Only one first-round pick. Wow. Beverly and Lou Williams were the big guys. But yeah, Houston, I can't believe they did that. They re-signed Nene and Harden to 4-year deals. They took PJ Tucker from the Raptors. I don't think he really was much for the Raptors, so didn't matter. Abu Mute from LA, Gerald Green from the Milwaukee organization, 2-way deal with RJ Hunter, a veteran's prorated contract from Joe Johnson, Sacramento. And they didn't really need anything else. James Harden was named All-NBA First Team. Daryl Morey was named Executive, a.k.a. GM of the Year. And James Harden was named MVP. But it didn't matter much. Because look at that bottom thing right here. Look at that bottom thing right there. During Game 7, with a chance to go to the NBA Finals for the first time since 1995, the Rockets lost 101-92 and missed 27 straight three-point shots. Not just missing 27 three-point shots in the game, but they missed 27 straight three-point shots. Like, how can you do that? It just doesn't make sense. It don't pass the sniff test. So yeah, as I said, the three-pointer was an innovation, and Houston blew it on that. But anyway, what would have happened if the Rockets actually did use the three-pointers and get to the NBA Finals against Cleveland? Let's find out. So here we are, 2018. I know for a fact Cleveland went to the Eastern Final. And won the Eastern Championships. So what would happen if they had taken care of those Houston Rockets? Rockets over the battlefield. Rockets over the battlefield. Game 1. Let's see. The Rockets win 105-96. It's J.D. Harden, 33 points. 27 from LeBron, 15 from Caleb, former Timberwolves icon. J.R. Smith with 9. Jay Crowder with 12. Jose Calderon with 3. Yeah, third bench. George Hill, former Pacer icon. Jeff Green, Tristan Thompson, former member of University of Texas and Canadian. D. Wade was on the Cleveland Cavaliers. What? I thought he was on Miami and Chicago only. Guess not. Yeah, D. Wade on Cleveland. Wow. Channing Frye and Isaiah Thomas. Not the Isaiah Thomas from the 90s, but the guy from the University of Washington. He was a Boston icon. 2018 Rockets, 33 from Harden, 11 from Anderson. Eric Gordon, 12 points off the bench in 14 minutes. Eric Gordon. Tucker Mabantade, Nanette, Briant, Weber, Onoku, Bobby Brown, Demetrius Jackson. Game 2. Let's see the Rockets lose game 2 thanks to LeBron remembering who the hell he was, getting that triple double. 11 points from Jeff Green, 10 from Tristan Thompson, 28 from James Harden, but they still lost. They basically went to the bench. Game 3 sees the Rockets go into Cleveland and win 113-108. CP3 remembered who the heck he was with a 25-point performance. Capella put up 23 points. Harder to put up 19 points in 19 minutes. Well, he only put up 19 minutes because the PF line is 6. That's not power forward. That's for personal fouls. So yeah, they had to empty the bench. 25 and 22 from LeBron and Love. Everyone else just sucked. Green, Hill, and Wade scored more points off the freaking bench. Yeah, Calderon was the main point guard. D Wade, I don't think was a starter. Game 4 sees the Rockets with a chance to make it 3-2, but they end up losing by a point. LeBron, 19 points, 10 rebounds. Harden put up 17 points in 36 minutes, and it stayed clean, only one personal foul. So Cleveland, yeah, so it's now 3 games to 1. It's 2-2, right? Yeah, Nene was 17 points in 16 minutes. Yeah, I'm sure of it. The bench and all that. Jeff Green had 22 points off the bench. Calderon and Jay Crowder couldn't do anything, so it's like, screw it. We're going to just put Jeff Green in at guard or something. Yeah, it's 2-2, right? At that point, it's just basically, screw that. Because a guy got no points, no love. It's 2-2, right? Yeah, it's 2-2. Okay. Well, anyway, game 5. Game 5, go back to Houston because of the 2-2-1-1-1 rule. Cleveland wins game 5, 115-110. So LeBron, 26 points. Yeah, CP3, remember who he was? 2-1-2-2. Yeah, 3-2. Okay. Houston's down 3 games to 2. 26 for LeBron. Calderon, Jeff Green, 14 points in 28 minutes. Okay. George Hill had 30 minutes played. Crowder had only 20. So 10 for Wade in 24 minutes. Calderon got 9. Isaiah Thomas. Demetrius Jackson and Bobby Knapp. 29 from James Harden, 22 from CP3. Game 6 sees the Rockets have 125, but they lose as LeBron James remembered who the heck he was, and LeBron would have knocked down the Rockets in 6 games. So Harden and crew would have tried, but the Cavs would have won their second title in 3 years. Harden put up 41 points in 36 minutes, so he remembered who the heck he was. Trevor Ariza fouled out with only 2 points. PJ Tucker had to take a lot of minutes. Nene and Gordon both had points. Cleveland, 31 from LeBron, 24 from Love. Green with 15. The bench was great, including D Wade and George Hill. So D Wade would have won a title as a Cav. Houston would have tried their best, but they would have fallen flat on their faces. So, Rockets over the battlefield, yeah, they stunk it up. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.